Hello, and welcome to Around the Political World with John Rothman. I am your host, John Rothman. If you're a fan of the show, make sure to hit the follow button on the top right of Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you are listening at this very moment. When you hit follow, leave a review or share an episode with a friend. It helps other people discover the show, keeps us going. As I like to point out each and every day, it expands our base. I want to focus today on foreign policy. The first thing we have to talk about is India and Pakistan, and the war which is now being waged between those two nations. It's over the question of Kashmir. I almost put on my Kashmir sweater this morning, which of course is simply a play, because Kashmir is a serious issue. And since the partition of India between India and Pakistan in 1947, the issue of Kashmir has been hot and heavy. And let's not forget China, which also has a role in terms of Kashmir. Take a look at a map. They're right there. So the question becomes, how dangerous is this situation? And this is the most dangerous moment, I believe, since 1971, when, in a fascinating moment, Richard Nixon and Henry Kissinger were able to contain a similar conflict. Here's the problem. Both India and Pakistan are nuclear powers, and they have bitter feelings about each other. All it would take would be one leader on either side to act irresponsibly, and you could have a nuclear conflagration on the Indian subcontinent. It is a time for America to be directly involved. And whether it is the President of the United States, the Secretary of State, who's also the National Security Advisor, I would point out, our role is critical. A nuclear hit on the Indian subcontinent would be a disaster, not only for the nations involved, but also for the populations involved, and also for the environmental impact that might have. So one of the things which we had better focus on is the fact that de-escalating the tensions between India and Pakistan is critical. It's critical for all of us right now. There was a second international incident that I found fascinating. You know, when you watch television, the news, occasionally you are able to witness foreign policy being made on TV. I know it's a fascinating moment. I always remember Zelensky sitting in the Oval Office with Donald Trump. But yesterday, the new Prime Minister of Canada sat with the President of the United States and made a very simple, direct, unambiguous statement. Canada, he said, is not for sale. And of course, Donald Trump said, well, you never know, anything is possible, and continued in the presence of the Canadian Prime Minister, continue to talk about the fact that Canada should be the 51st state. There is something seriously wrong with the way the United States is conducting its diplomacy, and certainly in relation to Canada, one of our best friends in the world. The fact that Donald Trump continues to push what are absolutely ludicrous ideas, well, it should be something that gives everyone pause, because it is the President of the United States. And then, of course, there is the question of the Middle East. And we have a president who is determined, one way or the other, to turn Gaza into a vacation spot for the world. And Israel today is wrestling with a great question about what to do about Gaza. Should they seize portions of Gaza in order to ensure that Hamas does not return to power? These are tense days when it comes to the Middle East. And certainly the revelation that more of the hostages are dead, well, that creates a whole other issue for Israel internally, and certainly now in terms of considering what it should do. Remember that just a week ago, Israel was plagued by forest fires, evidently started by extremists, by Hamas perhaps, by Islamic Jihad perhaps, by Palestinians who continue to oppose the very right of Israel to exist. And one forest in particular, Canada forest, where I have taken many walks, has been completely destroyed. This is something we need to understand, and I want to tell you a story. Years ago, traveling in Israel, I did something I normally did on my foreign trips. I like to visit prisons, because when you visit prisons, you see, well, how the worst of society are treated. In that moment, the Carmel fires, the fires around Haifa, were raging, and it was a very difficult time. And the warden of the prison I visited said, "Would you like to meet one of the perpetrators?" And I said, yes. The young man that I met, who had studied at the University of Michigan in Ann Arbor, spoke fluent English. We actually visited the same coffee house in Ann Arbor. And I asked him a question. You claim to love this land. And of course, the Israelis claim they love the land. They call it Israel, you call it Palestine. But the trees have no politics. The trees are there, and whoever wins the ultimate struggle will be the one who emerges in control of the trees. So why burn down the trees? And his answer sent a chill up and down my spine. He said, I would rather see the land in ashes than rebuilt by you Jews. It was a stunning moment for me, a revelation about the power of fanaticism. And that, my friends, is a big problem in the Middle East. And yes, it is a problem between India and Pakistan. And yes, without a doubt, as we deal now with Ukraine, it has to do with Ukrainian nationalism as well. And when you stop and you think about Canada, a neutral country, a friend of the United States of America, a nation which has no axe to grind, and yet you have this kind of tension politically between two nations, you have to pause and reflect and ask the question, what in the world is going on? So that's why I, this morning, decided to spend a few minutes on American foreign policy. I've given it only a cursory survey, but I can tell you what Richard Nixon once told me. 70% of a president's time, said Dick Nixon, is involved in foreign policy. Domestic policy, he said, basically runs itself, but foreign policy. And I want to ask you the fundamental question. What do you think of how Donald Trump conducts foreign policy? Based on what I've seen in 2 meetings with 2 foreign leaders in the Oval Office broadcast on television, frankly, I haven't a lot of confidence. And now Marco Rubio is not only Secretary of State, he's National Security Advisor to the President. Interesting, the last person to hold that position was Henry Kissinger, under Nixon and then under Ford. But to have one person doing 2 full-time jobs, and by the way, Marco Rubio is doing more than that. He has a whole variety of portfolios. This is something that should cause every American to pause. So we will, in the next few days, be focusing on what happens in the world, not to mention the College of Cardinals, who are now meeting, 133 cardinals, who will choose the next Holy Father for the Roman Catholic Church. My goodness, so much going on and so much to talk about. And we would all right here on Around the Political World with John Rothman. Thanks for tuning into another episode. I am John Rothman. Make sure to follow along and let me know your thoughts on the show by leaving a review on Apple Podcasts and sharing an episode with a friend or colleague so we can continue to grow and expand. And of course, you can interact with me on Facebook, LinkedIn, and indeed you can email me. All of those ways help me to know what you're thinking and, frankly, improve the quality of what I do. Even if I disagree with you, I love it. And, of course, my special appreciation to Gogo Zoger, the wonderful producer of this podcast. Without Gogo, Around the Political World with John Rothman, well, we'd be in big trouble. So, thank you, Gogo. And to all of you, we'll be watching what happens in the news today avidly. And tomorrow, I'll be right back here with you on Around the Political World with John Rothman. See you then.